Hey guys, so today I want to talk about a question that comes up all the time, and it's something that's pretty difficult to figure out, obviously. It's the question, am I trans? I talked about it in some of the other videos, but today I have a list of 7 questions or thought experiments that I think can help you get some clarity on how you are actually feeling. These questions, I think what they do best is help clear away all of the other worries and insecurities and fears and get down to the bottom of what you really desire and what's in your heart most of all. So these are 7 questions, and I'll go through them, and then I'll give my answers to them, and I'll give the answers that I think a lot of other trans people probably would have to these questions. Although, obviously, this is not a foolproof test. It's not a replacement for therapy or something that should determine whether or not you decide to transition. It's just a tool to help you understand yourself better. So just think of it in that way instead of some end-all be-all thing. Though I do find them extremely helpful. So the first question is, if I had a magic button that I could press that would make me wake up tomorrow as a girl with everyone else understanding to and relating to me as a girl, irrevocably but painlessly, would I press it? And for me, the answer to this question has always been yes. It's kind of this sort of fantasy wish that I've had throughout most of my childhood, that there was actually something like this that existed out there. But I think what's interesting about this question is it takes away all of the fear related to coming out, or with what reactions from society or what reactions from your family and friends might be, and it gets down to the real question of, would you rather be a girl? For me, clearly, this answer is yes, and I think the answer to this would be yes for every transsexual, at least every male to female transsexual, and the opposite for female to male transsexuals. So the second question, which is a follow-up to the first, alternatively, if you had a magic button that you could press that would make you wake up tomorrow still as a guy, but without any of the gender issues you've been having, not questioning your gender, and able to live happily as a guy with zero dysphoria, would you press it? Now, on first glance, this seems like kind of a simple question. I think especially early in transition, of course you would want to do away with it. But the reality of this question and the answer to it for me is that I wouldn't do it. Um, I feel like this fundamentally took away a part of who I am. And I think that's what's interesting about this question is that's what it gets at. It gets at this innate feeling of that being transgendered or feeling as though I'm female is something that I feel is core to who I am. It's a part of who I am. And pressing this button that would take that away, even if it also took away my trans feelings, would seem completely wrong. I would feel like I had lost a part of myself. So I wouldn't press that button. Though I can certainly understand why people, especially those who haven't come out yet or haven't started transition, would see this as extremely appealing. Though they would probably still feel the way that I feel, that it would be an erasure of some part of themselves that is fundamental and possibly very important. Third question, if I had both of these buttons, which one would I rather press, all things being equal? So the button that would just change me into a woman and make it seem like it had always been that way, or the button that would just get rid of being transgendered and allow me to be my birth gender without any issue? And I would absolutely say the first one, the first button, and I think most trans people would also say this. So I think that's just an interesting third part to the first two that can help you understand really what is it that you want to change. Is it that you want to change your transgendered feelings, or is it that you actually want to change your gender? So I think most trans people would say the first one in this case too. I know I definitely would. This one's probably the easiest question for me. The fourth one, if you had a test that could tell you whether you were a guy or a girl, which answer would you be hoping for as you took it? Which way would you try and skew your answers, either consciously or subconsciously? In which direction would you skew it? So for me, this is actually a real-world example. I know there are a few gender tests out there, and they're all basically kind of crap, but I always felt taking it that I always wished that it would come out on the female side, so I guess I could feel some sort of validation from it. That's still true. When I take tests like that, it always feels like if it comes out female or something, I feel a bit more validated by it, which says something, I think, that I want to feel validated as a woman. Fifth question. If you washed up on a desert island by yourself, but with any amount of both male and female clothing, with no hope of rescue, but otherwise everything that you needed for a relatively happy and healthy life, would you choose to present as a male, female, neither, a mix of the two, one way some of the time, the other way the rest of the time? And also, as the second part to it, if for some bizarre reason a lifetime supply of hormones washed up with you as well, do you think you'd take them? What if and also a last part, what if the button from the first experiment washed up in a situation where you were by yourself, would you press it? So that's what's interesting about this question or thought experiment, is that it takes away all of the other factors related to society and your family, and forces you to focus entirely on what your feelings are on the subject. For me, I think I would probably present as female because I like, it makes me happy to do that. I think I might do so less so, just because out of utility, I think sometimes male clothing can be a little bit easier. So I'd probably be a mix of female and androgynous, depending on what I was doing. As for the hormones, I would instantly start taking them. You know, the dysphoria has a lot to do with my body, so having hormones wash up, I think, would make me very happy. And the button even more so. So for me, this question kind of gets to the feeling of, yes, I'm trans, I want to be a woman no matter what, even if it had nothing to do with anybody else and nobody else would ever know or see or care. I would still want to do it. Question number 6. Let's say there was a test that asked you about pretty much everything about you, and at the end of the test, with 100% accuracy, it would tell you whether or not you were transgendered. So you take it and it tells you, well, you've got some mild gender confusion, but you're definitely not trans, and you shouldn't transition. How would that make you feel? For me, this sort of test, if there were such a thing, and the answer were that I wasn't trans, I think I would feel devastated. I think I would feel devastated because I would be scared that it would mean that I couldn't transition. And then on the other hand, this is question 7, what if the test told you, yes, you're definitely trans, you should probably start planning your transition, how would you feel about this? So these last 2 questions are, I think, a little bit more helpful if you haven't already decided to transition. I think they can be helpful in helping you to determine whether or not that's something that you really want. I think before starting transition, if you have in the back of your mind that you could procrastinate on it and do it later on, it can cloud your judgment a little bit and maybe obscure what your real feelings are. So these 2 questions, I think, take that away and get more to the point of, let's say this was your last opportunity to transition. Would you transition now, or would you just not do it ever? Or if somebody could tell you that you shouldn't transition or that you should transition, would you want to know? So all of these questions, I think, are very thought-provoking, and they're interesting thought experiments to do with yourself. For me, they were helpful before I began transitioning, and they were things that I had always thought of a little bit on my own, but never put in a format or verbalized like this. So I'll take all these questions in text format and I'll put them in the description section here so you guys can use them or go back to them or whatever. You'll also see them a lot on Reddit, so these weren't mine. I've seen this a number of places, particularly on threads in Reddit, and it's something that is recommended to a lot of early transsexual or early transitioning transsexuals or people trying to figure out whether or not they should transition. So anyway, that's it for today. Sorry, my phone. I'll do another one soon, but thanks a lot, guys.